Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm here to bring you a global monthly video hop. Once a month, myself and demonstrators from around the world get together to post videos on a specific theme. And the theme for this month is sketch. So we were all given this sketch to create cards based on this image here. And if you're not familiar with what sketches are, it's a good way to get you motivated and help you design paper crafts, cards, etc. And if you have a look at the current Stampin' Up! Catalog, the annual catalog for 2024-2025, on page 22, at the bottom, there's an area called Basic Card Design, and it talks about how to create cards and the basic information you need. And there's some sketches to inspire you into making different types of cards. Other ways to get the inspiration from sketches is just to look at a card, maybe a favorite card you've seen online or somebody's given you, and have a look at it and look at the different elements and then make something similar using the different parts that you saw in that card. Now, before I forget, listed below in the description for this video will be links to the other people that will be participating in this month's Global Monthly Video Hop. So when you're done watching my video, please look below and then click on the links to check out other people's sketch designs and see what they've made with this card sketch. So with this sketch here, and the other thing is I will be listing products that I show you today below. So if you wish to order any, you can use those product codes, talk to your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator to order the products. Or if you're in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. So you can just contact me at papercraftaddiction.blogspot.co.nz or michellekritchley.stampinup.net, which is my Stampin' Up! Website. And you can contact me there, have a look at the products, and order directly if you wish. So with this sketch here, it's kind of blown up. It's like twice the size that it needs to be. You can see that there's a couple rectangle sides. There's a rectangle in the front, a circle, and a rectangle that the circle is on top of. So just looking at this, my first thought would be the image would be here. This would be the sentiment, and these sections would be designer series paper or cardstock or something else to differentiate the different sections of the sketch. So I started playing around. I had an idea in my head of designing a card, but I haven't designed any cards for several months because I went away on holiday to visit family for a month, and when I got back, I got COVID, so that made me unavailable for a few weeks, and then got busy working. So it's my first chance to get in my craft room and start designing. And I started with what I thought was going to be a quick and easy one, and then my mind wandered, and I've ended up with lots of cards on this sketch. So instead of showing you step by step how to make one specific card, I'm going to show you all the cards that I made and explain how I made them, and then you can copy what you'd like or get inspired to make something else based on this sketch. So I'm going to put the sketch, slide this over a bit, and put the sketch over here so you can kind of see the basic elements of what I'm working with. So the first few cards, I decided to use the Beside Me stamp set, and it's one for fathers or men in your life. It's got Happy Father's Day, etc. in there. And the reason I was thinking of that is because here in New Zealand, Father's Day is the first Sunday in September. So Father's Day is coming up soon on September 1st this year. And I need to make some Father's Day cards to sell at one of my markets and in case anybody else needs them. So I use this one Beside Me stamp set. And it has some lovely images that are great for coloring, etc. So here was the first card that I made. So looking at the sketch, we have the rectangles either side that are the same size. We have the rectangle inside, and it's just slightly shorter. If you look at the bottom of the sketch, it doesn't come all the way to the end. So I made it just slightly shorter there. And then put the rectangle at the bottom. This time it says Happy Father's Day. And did a circle image from the stamp set. Colored it in with my Stampin' blends. And that's the front of the card. But I made the card slightly different than a normal card because I turned it into an easel card. So a normal card would open like that. And this one being an easel card, I have an attachment at the side to angle it. So when it sits on the table, it sits like this. So you can be looking at the front of the card and see what's inside. I cut out the letters DAD on some foam adhesive sheets. So you peel off one side, put your cardstock on it, and then you can cut whatever you want and it gives you a bit of a thickness. So I did that for the letters Dad, to spell Dad, using the, I missed the name, alphabet. What is this? The Playful Alphabet dies. And there's lots of dies in there, nice small size. You can spell anything out you want. You could have father, you could have grandpa, you could have any names that you might use for the language that you're using for your family. My grandfather would have been called Morfar because I've got a Swedish background and he's Swedish. So lots of different letters there that you can use. And because I cut them out with the foam adhesive sheet, they stick up, and that allows the easel to sit against there when you have it on the table to look at. So that's just showing a nice little scene of a father and two kids out fishing. And the background image is from the Meandering Meadows designer series paper. So there's lots of different images there. I've got other ones that I'm planning to make. Some beautiful scenery images there. So that was one card. Now I did another card using the same set. This time I took the sketch and I turned it sideways. So if you have a look there, that's the sketch, and I just simply turned it sideways and used it that way. So with a sketch, you can put them any way you want, sideways, upside down, however you'd like to do it. So that one is sideways. Again, I have the rectangle with the words. This time I die cut the words and just put them onto cardstock. Again, the Meandering Meadow background there. I've got the three sections, so it's the same width as that one there, but it's put sideways. And this time I did the image with the father and the child. They look like they might be at the beach, but then I blended using my Stampin' blends to make it look like it's the same pathway from the picture there. And then simply just a sentiment on the inside. So those two were done using the Beside Me stamp set and Meandering Meadow paper. And then I decided to use the Latte Love stamps and dies. Now this, I believe, is an online exclusive, so you only find it online, as well as the paper that comes with that. You can get the designer series paper, a little latte, 12 by 12 inch pieces of paper, so lots of different lovely images in there, and you've probably seen lots of things online made with this set. So that's the designer series paper. And so here's the image, the card I came up with. So I've stamped the coffee cup in there, and I've die cut some of the coffee beans out of the designer series paper. Used white embossing powder to put the sentiment there. This time, instead of just a straight rectangle, I used the dies called Stylish Shapes. So lots of different shapes in there. So I got the circle, the largest circle, to do the circle at the top, and then one of the banner dies at the bottom to fit the sentiment I have there. And so The same measurements as shown in the other cards. The strips on the side and the one in the center. Unlike the previous cards, the center is a different designer series paper. So this was 3 sections of the same paper, and this one I've got one paper on both sides and a different one in the center. Now I made this a little bit different. Instead of opening like a normal card would, I made it so you open the inside, the top layer, and then you have hidden below a message. So you're the best part of my day. And then that middle section opens up and you can write your message right in there. So this is actually, they sometimes call it a bridge card because you have the cardstock here holding the 2 parts together to bridge them. And that way you actually have 3 sections to the card. But on the face of it, it looks just like that sketch. So that one is using Latte Love stamp set. And then I went back to Father's Day. This time I chose the Trusty Tools stamp set and matching dies. This also had designer series paper in the past when it first came out. I don't think the paper is available at the moment, but I did buy some of the paper, so I had some to use. And this one is obviously set up for Father's Day. Big word there says Dad. And so with this one, I made several different cards. So first I did one using the stamps and coloring everything with blends and using the dies to die cut it all out. There is a die that does the dotted background here. It looks like one of those boards where you can hang your tools up on. I used, for the circle there, I used the deckled circle dies that come in lots of different sizes. So that gray circle in the background is the deckled circle. And then I've got my rectangle at the bottom. And then instead of having something separate for the sides, I just left the cardstock. So the 2 sides there are just the base cardstock. And then I've got a black section in the middle, and then the white die cut section there, the circle, and the rectangle with the sentiment. But then I added to it by putting different things around the circle in the center, and I heat embossed the Happy Father's Day in the words Dad, and then on the inside I've just done some stamping. So that was using the Trusty Tools and the matching dies for that. And so then I varied it slightly. This next card you might not even recognize that it was from a sketch, and there it is. This one was using the designer series paper that came with the Trusty Tools set when it first came out. I believe that was last year. So I fussy cut a lot of the tools out of there, including the saw. So the saw represents the circle in the center there, and this time I put the sentiment on another saw, hand saw, and that represents that rectangle there. Again, I left the card to be the edges here, and the center is just the designer series paper, and then just a stamp inside there. So then I had a third card that I started out with the Trusty Tools stamp set. I stamped lots of the paintbrush and then colored them with stamping blends. So here it is. This one here, I did 6 paintbrushes, colored them all in, and then so the edges are designer series paper. That paper is from the actually it's the back side of the Meandering Meadows. I thought I used a different paper for that, but that's Meandering Meadows on the back side of the designer series paper. You just have some random colorful images. So I used that. The center section I dry embossed on that. The painted textures. Use the painted textures embossing folder, and there it is. So I used that on some white cardstock, and then I stamped the words came from the Crafting With You stamp set. The words here is all one stamp, so I stamped half of it, covered up the word crafting, and then after I did that, I covered up the other words and then stamped the word crafting to make it look like it's one line and to fit on the rectangle to match the sketch. Now this one actually opens sideways like a regular card. Oh, if I can open it. So instead of opening upwards, it opens sideways. So there you go. So that's just a little crafting card. But it started out with a stamp from Trusty Tools. So that just shows that you can easily mix and match completely different stamp sets. I think of that more of as a masculine one. I think this more feminine, mainly because I love to do crafting. But you can mix them up to create the card. So now, the final card I want to show you. Oh, and I forgot to mention. So this, you might see it's got some rough edges on it. That I use the deckled rectangles set. And there isn't a rectangle that fits that width. So I took one that was as long as I wanted and then die cut it and then ran it through again to cut off the bottom part to shrink it down to the height I wanted it to be. Oh, and I'll just show you here I found. So these are the dies, the Trusty tool dies. And so there's this section here that cuts the dots. Now, this die was smaller than the piece I wanted to cut, so I cut as much as I could, and then I moved the die down onto the cardstock, lining up one layer of holes, so it would line up perfectly to cut the rest of it, and that way you can get as big as a section as you want with those little holes there. And then the little nuts and bolts, there's a die that cuts those as well. So those were Father's Day and a crafting one. And then the final card I have to show you, which actually turned out to be the first card I made. And I realized I went a little over the top, so I thought, oh, I need to make some simpler cards using the sketch. But the first one I did was using Encircled in Nature. And there's also dies for that set. And the dies in here cut out different sections of the stamped images, and they'll create other images like floral and trees. And this is the first time I've played with this stamp set. I only recently acquired it. So here's the card I made. Now looking at this, you might not immediately tell that it came from the sketch, but this is where you can start with a sketch and then let your creativity take hold and make something completely different. But this can get you kickstarted for it. So with this one, I have designer series paper on the sides, like there, and the designer series paper in the center, similar to the other cards. But the circle, instead of having a totally separate circle, I use the dies to cut what looks like flowers or buds to me. And then I stamped. So I use this stamp here that's branches, and it actually fits perfectly over the middle section of the floral. Now with that, it is a little tricky. So there's the stamp there. It's quite large. It's a little tricky lining it up to die cut it, because the dies, there's two dies, and you can cut it in one go or separately. But if you notice, there's these little tabs at one side. So those tabs perfectly line up with this opening, so the stamp itself doesn't completely close. It has a little section that does not stamp all the way through, which is over here. So when you're die cutting it, after you stamp that ring of branches, if you look for that tab and where it doesn't connect up, that's perfectly matches the stamp to die cut it. So you can see all the little edge bits line up if you look at that tab and put it where that opening is. And then you could do the same for the inside. You could cut them together or cut the outside and then do the inside separately if you feel better. I'm just going to show it this way because it'll be easier to see. So looking for that tab there, and there's the opening where it doesn't completely stamp all the way. You can just line that up with that in the section, and then you can see that the little bumps that are part of the ends of the branches cover where you've stamped perfectly. So it saves time because for you, because sometimes when you have a circular one that has to be in a certain way, you spend all this time trying to figure out how it actually sets up to die cut it. But knowing that that tab there is for you to line it up in that open section. So that's a little tip for you using the dies, the Encircled in Nature dies. And I don't know if you've noticed, when I get dies, I like to actually draw around them when I first receive them, and that way I know how to put them back on the holding paper. Otherwise, if you take a lot off and then you go to put them back, sometimes, this one's not so bad because it doesn't have too many, but sometimes it's actually very difficult to get them all to fit on because you've got too many dies. So that's quite helpful. So like with this one here, that has lots of dies, and if I were to be using several so if I took several off and I was doing a big project using lots of them, trying to get them back and line them up can be near impossible because you can't remember where things go. But I've traced around them so I can see when I'm done, I can just simply pop it back in there. So that's your little tip for the day. And those are the cards. Now, I don't think I showed you opening this card. So this card, the difference here, instead of that rectangle, I heat embossed the floral, and then I just die cut it. So it does similar thing where there is something down here at the bottom. It's just not a rectangle. And this circle here is not a solid circle. It's a circle of flowers. The other thing I did is I cut the edges off, and this paper here is on the inside. So it opens like this. So it's similar to the Latte one, but the Latte one, I left those two pieces on. This one, you imagine those two pieces are gone, and it's the same as this. So if you want to recreate this card, you just, this here I did 2 centimeters, a slit 2 centimeters on either side, and this one here, I did that, but then I snipped them at the top. So it doesn't have a top part to it. So I'll bring the cards back in for you to have a quick look at. And make sure you go and click on the links below to have a look at other people's inspirations from the sketch that we had to work with this month. And if you are in New Zealand, don't forget, Father's Day is coming up, September 1st. If you're in other parts of the world, I think a lot of places already had Father's Day in June, but this can give you inspirations for maybe next year. Or you could simply have it say Dad, and it could say something like Happy Birthday. And these sets are really good for any man in your life. Or in my case, I love doing DIY work, so that's why I got that stamp set, because I use lots of those tools myself. So thanks for watching, and please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more of my videos, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Even though I didn't actually step you through making a card, I'm hoping that you've enjoyed it anyway, and you got lots of inspiration on how to make cards based on a sketch that you saw. So that sketch, I ended up making 7 cards, and I already have 2 or 3 more ideas in my head. Thanks a lot. See you next month. Bye.